wouldn't change the idea of general public about fats and sugars. The easy way to change about the generalized ideas is simply case studies, research studies, published articles by accredited people. In one of the articles of sugar, it will say that published documents in 1950s and 1960s were mentioning that sugar was not a leading factor in CHD, which is congenital heart disease. But the article also states that in 2016 there were more policy regulating sugar. So that greatly affects it, because in 1950s people more believed that sugar was not that bad, so they just they can easily take sugary intakes with less of a worry, believing that it's not the major contribution to it. But nowadays there are actually sightings that sugar does cause CHD, but it's not as prominent and not always cited. It's in here, it's just in every now and then, but I believe it's a pretty big cause for it, and that leads to people believing that, oh, now it's a big deal, we have to be worried about it. And also the fats, it's just all depending on who published it and how credible people see them as. 2. What are trans fats and are they as bad as we've been told? Trans fats are as bad, if not as worse, as we've been told. Trans fats in the document of fats was, in the article about fats, was described as the Darth Vader, the good fat turned bad. Trans fats is the one that actually causes heart damage, unlike saturated fats, which are still debatable. They raise the LDL and lower your HDL, which is your total cholesterol. Basically, LDL is lower density lipoprotein cholesterol, and HDL is higher density lipoprotein cholesterol. There's also many fast food places that still use trans fat, despite it being not as good for the heart, because people just can't desire it greatly and can't help it, or do not know about the damages that it can cause. Do you think there's strong enough separation between guidelines and industries? I think there is a separation, but not strong enough. In the previous article, that published documents was possibly manipulated. So during the guidelines back then, maybe it was more lenient than it was now, but it was industries can still influence the guidelines or get it passed by by just making them look the other eye when being expected. So there is a separation, but there's many factors that can cause it to make it so the guidelines are possibly just invalidated in certain situations. How has the food industry impacted the health of Americans? It has greatly impacted, and possibly making it worse, because of how easily it is to get fast food, and because of the trans fats that's in fast food, possibly it causes them to get more overweight, more heart problems, a lot of worse things that can happen. And because of how easily accessible it is, and how coincident it is for people just going in and out of the day and want a quick meal, it can greatly impact their health without them knowing, because they can just continuously eat it day on and day out, because of how easy it is and not having to work for it. In your experience, where do you see the food industry making an impact in the American diet? Everywhere. The food industry is a very big part of how we take our diet. Like previously mentioned, a lot of factors can be into it. It can make people heart problems, lung problems, anything that can just greatly affect their health.